Hi guys, welcome back to Our Maine Homestead and part 2 of caring for baby chicks. In part 1 we covered ordering baby chicks and building a cheap and easy brooder. And in part 2 we're going to cover caring for and raising baby chicks. So let's get started. This is the box our baby chicks were shipped in. We got 12 in total. If you take a look inside, you can see that it's lined with straw, and you'll see a poop spot here in the corner. That's more than likely where they all kind of huddled to stay safe and warm during the trip. Baby chicks are shipped when they're 1 day old, and that's because they have enough nutrients from the egg to sustain themselves for 3 or 4 days. So one of the things we really love about living where we live in a very low populated area is the personal touch you get. We were expecting to get a call from the post office the day our chicks were going to arrive, so that we would go and get them as soon as possible, because you do not want them staying there not being warm, and you want to go ahead and get them taken care of and fed and watered as soon as possible. But we got the phone call, but we also got this cute little note in the mailbox. So there's a little better look at the notes. When we ordered from Ideal Poultry, we actually, on their website, they will say that they will not mark males. So you'll just kind of have to wait and see, unless you know how to sex them, of course. But they were actually marked, and these labels were inside the box. The Rhode Island red was marked green, the other was marked with a orangish red color on the top of their head, so it was very easy to tell what the males were. Again, we ordered as well 5 straight runs of each, and some of those could be males as well. You just don't know unless you know how to sex them, and or want to do that. You won't know until they get a little older. Also inside the box was a little warning that it just kind of bears saying that you want to be careful. You want to wash your hands. We're doing a lot of that lately, but you want to wash your hands after you handle baby chicks. And as soon as possible, you want to get the baby chicks unpacked and into the brooder. First off, go ahead and have your heat lamp or heat source turned on so that the brooder will be warm for them. They may be cool or chilled from their trip, especially this time of year in Maine. They're definitely going to be. And then as you're unpacking them, taking each one out of the shipping box and putting them into the brooder, you want to dip their beak into the water. That gives them a little drink to start with, and also begins the process of showing them where their water source is going to be. You want to do this every couple of hours until you're monitoring them and making sure that they're all going to the water and drinking on a fairly regular basis. So the only other thing you need at this point is chick feed. You want something specifically for baby chicks. I use Purina Start and Grow. It's 18% protein and it's medicated. They have an unmedicated version as well, but the medicated version helps prevent coccidiosis, which is one of the major problems that baby chicks can develop. You want to have your chick feeder in the brooder box But what I also do is lay out a paper towel and sprinkle some of the chick feed on the paper towel. This lets them have easy access to it, and they're curious by nature, so they're going to go to it and then they're going to start pecking it, and eventually that will help transition them from the paper towel to go into their feeder, and they'll do that naturally on their own. Question may be what to keep the temperature in the brooder box. So you want to have an area that is warm underneath the heat lamp or underneath the brooder heater, and then you want to have plenty of room for the chicks to get away from the heat in case they're getting overheated. But underneath the heat lamp, the first week you want it to be around 95 degrees, and then every week after that, so about every 7 days, you want to, if you have a heat lamp, you want to raise it up slightly, and you're using a thermometer to monitor that temperature, but you want to raise it up slightly and decrease by 5 degrees every week. So first week 95, second week 90, next week 85, and so on. So a couple of problems that are pretty common that you may encounter are one, pasty butt, and we'll talk about it, and number two is more nondescript, but it's just a depressed chick. You will potentially see a chick that is not interacting as much with the others, standing, maybe holding its head down, kind of, just kind of standing there existing, not really doing normal chick behavior. When you see a chick that seems to be depressed, they're probably not drinking very well and they're probably not eating very well. So that's the beginning of a downhill spiral. You want to correct that as quickly as possible. A couple of things you can do. Number one is pick up that chick, take it and dip its beak again into the water just to get it to drink a little bit to help it stay hydrated. You can also, which is what I usually do on top of taking it initially to the waterer, is to mix up an electrolyte solution and start feeding it that solution probably every 10 to 15 minutes several times, and just watch for improvement. You can buy electrolyte solution made specifically for chicks, but why would you do that when you can make your own relatively easy? I'll show you the recipe here in a second, but I'll also put it down in the description box so you have it written down and be able to access it easily when you need it. Here's the recipe for the electrolyte solution. It's real simple. 1 cup of warm water, 2 teaspoons of sugar or molasses, an 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and an 1/8 teaspoon of baking soda. You can also use potassium chloride. I did not use that. Most people don't have it on hand, so there's no reason to put that in there necessarily. Give a few drops. So all I did is just put a little bit in a spoon and dip their beak in it 3 or 4 times every 10 to 15 minutes. And this is something you can also give to adult chicks if needed. So that brings us to pasty butt. That's probably the most common situation you might encounter with baby chicks. It's brought on a lot of times by the stress of being transported, a change in feed, or the beginning of eating regular food versus they've never eaten anything before, obviously. And also coccidiosis can contribute to it, so that's one reason that I use the medicated feed. Pasty butt is very easy to see, diagnose, and pretty simple to fix. What you should be doing at least once a day, but I would probably do it at maybe 2 or 3 times a day, is sometimes you can get a look without picking up the baby chick and look at their bottom. But if you pick up the baby chick and can get a really good look, if they have pasty butt, you're going to actually see some stool protruding and actually stuck to their bottom there. So number one, don't reach up there and start picking it off. They're extremely sensitive and tender in that area, so you don't want to cause a sore or another problem trying to fix the first problem. The easiest way to fix this is to make up a small bowl of just warm water. Be sure it's not too hot. Take the baby chick, dunk its bottom, and hold it into the water for about 30 seconds or so. That will soften everything up, and then you can take a moist paper towel or a moist rag and gently wipe that stool off. And again, a baby chick that this happens to, it's probably going to happen to again at least once in the next day or so. So you're going to really want to closely monitor all of them initially the first couple of days for pasty butt, but the ones who've already had it, you want to keep an extra close eye on them. The longer it stays that way, the less stool they're able to pass, and you know baby chicks pass a lot of stool, as do chickens. So the more it stays that way, they can become backed up and constipated in a sense. So you want to prevent that, because that leads to a lot of other really more serious issues. Once you've got the stool cleaned off, they're going to be a little moist, so you want to gently damp that area to try to dry it off, or hold a dry paper towel to let it absorb some of that moisture. And then once you've got it fairly dry, you can take a little Vaseline and just a small amount, but rub it around that area to keep it from getting irritated, and that will also potentially help lubricate things so that it slides on through. You can use a Q-tip for this if you want, or wear gloves, but be sure to wash your hands really well once you're done, no matter what you're using. Those are just a couple of problems that you might encounter. Keep in mind you want to always keep fresh water. As the chicks get older, they're going to kick whatever you're lining your brooder box with, which I use pine shavings, which we talked about in the brooder video. But they're going to kick that up into the feeder and into the waterer more than anything, and then that's going to prevent the water from coming down out of the jar into the waterer base. So you want to be sure that you're kind of monitoring that, keeping that clean, and they're just going to dirty it right back up, but a couple times a day should be sufficient. If you can avoid the problems or take care of the problems pretty quick, you're going to be in the clear. Chickens are one of the easiest animals to raise. If you get adult chickens and they're just layers, or meat chickens, or baby chicks, it's a pretty simple process. Thanks for watching. I hope that helps in your adventure raising baby chicks. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and hit the subscribe button to follow along with the rest of our adventure.